Last thing I got for you. This is a very weird statement to say, but the LCS is actually only 3 weeks away. You guys have now been over in London for a while. How has the training been? Are you worried about summer given the very, very quick turnaround into the split?
Let's go talk about this because I am absolutely pissed. That entire interview, as you saw at the end there, just froze up. Lost all the footage. Nothing for Golden Guardians there. I guess we kind of have to start with Cloud9 yesterday, which was arguably the more upsetting loss of the two, given that for whatever reason, community expectations were at Cloud9 could actually possibly do something, even though it was a significant upset. And I briefly talked about it yesterday. But I mean, fan sentiment's right. Like, sure, some players had good signs and good showings, but like, ultimately, I'm trying to provide consolation to people for an 0-3 loss, which is not easy. Welcome to West End Highway, where there are a lot of cars. By game 3 of that series yesterday, I was just praying that we would not get beat faster than Mad Lions did by T1. Now, granted, we had moments where we were competitive, but that's still not a great feeling to have ultimately, and it's very tough to deal with. And I know I angle myself a lot as like the positivity hopium guy, and I'm going to try and make sure this video does not dip too far into the doomer side of things, but it's impossible to not address that after an 0-6 week in total. I didn't even realize how much I was thinking about like part of the negative angle of this until I talked to Spooks today, and I brought up the matchup that Cloud9 is now going to have against Golden Guardians, and how we started talking through the matchup a little bit. I was like, okay, well, Fudge is one of the weak points alongside M&S and mid lane. He just kind of laughed a little bit, and he's like, it's interesting how Fudge can just dominate us domestically and is by far and away the best top laner in NA, and then comes to the international stage, and now we're talking about Fudge being a weak point potentially, which I think is somewhat true but also somewhat wrong, because granted Fudge has a very small sample size at Worlds, but Licorice has looked solid against even the best top laners in the world like 369. So it's not, yes, Fudge is still the best top laner domestically, but if Licorice is now stepping up to the point where he's contending with this competition, then yeah, it's much more of an even matchup, and you could arguably say it's Licorice favored given recent events. Now, is that how it's going to play up in actuality? Not necessarily, but it's an interesting talking point. M&S not performing is going to put a stain in a lot of people's eyes, even looking at like 100 Thieves going into the summer split, because if your imports that dominate domestically cannot contend with the players that are from their main leagues elsewhere, that is potentially going to be a problem. And people like Quid are then going to be looked down upon as like, oh, even if he does incredibly well in North America, what's he going to do come the international stage? And the reality is NA's environment is not fully conducive to him playing incredibly well. To round out the conversation on Cloud9's matchup specifically, look, Golden Guardians was at least able to take one game off of them, but whenever you look back to Golden Guardians series, it was one single team comp, like kind of a one-off fluke that they somehow still went on to win, because if you remember in that game, Stixxay was still getting absolutely smashed in bot lane by Elk. And realistically, they were so far down in games 1 and 3 that you look at that and that's like 2.5 wins still for BLG, and then you come into the series with Cloud9, we go 3 against them. It's just it's we're not on that level. We're just not. Shifting that into the Golden Guardians series today, we had moments early where we looked decent. We got some leads in games 2 and even looked a little bit competitive in game 3 as we got an early lead on Stixxay. But I'm not gonna lie to you, the moment Stixxay got 2 kills, I'm just sitting there like, that's quite honestly the worst person we could have gave gold to, because he's consistently getting outclassed in lane, and this team comp is just not gonna be designed well for him. You got a Kha'Zix that can dive on him, you got a Rakan that can get on him. Like, he's gonna have a miserable time. I wish that would have gone to the Rengar, and maybe the Rengar could have carried from there, but even then it's like Kanavi and Kanavi and JDG are just so insanely good at team fighting. Like we were never really gonna stand a chance. It was really cool to see like Captain Flowers and see Azael get really hyped on the cast, because those were incredibly hype moments for NA. But at the same time, it was like, I'm glad that there was that counterweight on the broadcast to make people realize JDG is the better team fighting team. I think we won maybe 1 or 2 team fights against them the entire series. We were never going to beat them in that regard. And even though we got these early leads and put ourselves in positions that we could do it, my expectation was that we weren't going to. So I didn't really, I was excited to see us doing well, but I was always reserved knowing what was eventually coming, and that proved to be entirely true. This now means that North America went 0-6, and more importantly, EU and NA went 1-12 against China and Korea. The gap is so freaking wide, it's insane. And it comes back to the question of, how do you deal with that as an NA fan? I can sit here and try and tell you, hey, we need to focus less on international events, focus more on domestic play, like I'm trying to do, but that doesn't take the sting out of this moment any more than it normally would. Like, at the end of the day, you still want to at least take one game off of these teams, like, and that's not even just like hopes that we're gonna win. It's just like, no, one game to make yourself feel good. We didn't take anything. So then as we go into Worlds next year, or not next year, next split, and we have a format that's just as hard as MSI, where the best teams are gonna get out from the top 2 regions. Like, how do I go in? Like, I'm not gonna, like, this year I'm not gonna go in and give like the full hopium, like every team gets out, because I think that's unrealistic. And as much as I will push NA fans or fandom and support them, I feel like that actually causes more problems to a certain extent than anything else. It's important to be realistic, but also still optimistic in some ways. Like, hope that one team can make a run and do something, and with there being, maybe we can knock off our 1 seed, can beat the 3 or 4 seed. But I don't think there was ever an expectation that we were going to be 1 and 2. I saw this comment, and I'll use Robert's tweet here. For NA fans, how do they continue to support or stay interested if this is the expectation going forward? And honestly, I don't have an answer for you. Like, I'm trying to give you one in that care about domestic, but the way the system is set up is that domestic leagues feed into these international events, and America's just not like that. We want to be the best at something, or we just end up not caring at all. And that's yep, we're good now. I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I'm trying to cope with this. LCS fan copes, and the name is finally fitting, with how to handle this going forward, because we're in a very tricky spot. Clearly my efforts to push the LCS and stuff like that, at least online, aren't working. In person, I know people enjoy going to the bars, watching the games, like, regardless of what happens on the international stage. And I'm sorry to the New York community that I haven't been able to do anything during MSI yet. And unfortunately, the one time that we have an NA versus NA matchup on Sunday, I'm going to be working, so I can't even do anything. And that sucks. But I don't know what to do. I don't have the answer. For the Cloud9 Golden Guardians game, I still think Cloud9's favored, if I'm being honest. I mean, Golden Guardians has stepped up and played a lot looser and freer, but clearly, there was a lot of pressure on C9, and it was also their first 3 games on stage. So M&S, I fully expect to bounce back a little bit more. Fudge, I expect to play a lot better against Licorice, and I would fully give Cloud9 the edge here. I'm willing to say 3-1. I think Golden Guardians can take a game off of them, but I still don't think it's going to mean anything there. And then after that, I mean, we'll see how we do against T1 or Gen G. Let me recap the Spooks interview really quickly, because unfortunately that footage just will never see the light of day, and it is what it is. I asked him what he thought about their series against them, and basically he said it's a micro difference. He said when they're getting individual lane advantages without jungle needing to be there, they're just ultimately going to win, and they're better, and their team fighting is really damn good. On what North America can do to build interest in international events for our fans and those outside of the teams, he simply said win. That's it. So I don't have a good response to anything there. Regarding Cloud9, he feels like they should actually be favored, which is interesting. Can't say that I fully agree, even if Golden Guardians has looked a lot better on the international stage. I will see. Maybe I'm wrong. And then finally, I asked him about the quick turnaround, because for those that don't know, the LCS Summer Split starts in 3 weeks. And he bluntly said that they are really worried about Burnout, and that it is going to be a problem that they're probably going to have to deal with. He said that they will likely start off slow in the Summer Split as they try and give their players more time to rest, more time to just chill out, because it's going to be very fast then in terms of the LCS Summer Split. Again, only 2 teams miss, so you just have to get into playoffs, and then after that you can worry about it from there. But you'll then have a month-and-a-half break before Worlds, which is a really important part. You'll have a lot of time off, but you need to make sure you get to Worlds if you're Golden Guardians. And Burnout for both C9 and GG is going to be a very, very real thing, as there is no turnaround time between the splits. So they should be fine to just make top 8 and get in the playoffs. All should be good, but you do need, like, this is going to be a narrative that we really need to watch with these 2 teams specifically, and see if they start falling off towards the end of summer as prep begins to get a little bit more intense. It's something that we consistently see in summer, where MSI hangover is a real thing, where they can start off slow, but also you falter in the end because you run out of gas. You're running on fumes, and there's nothing you can do about it. My final message for North American fans and even European fans at this point is simply go outside and have fun and just relax, and don't worry about it. Don't take more into these international events than there is, because our expectations should be different than China or Korea, and that is very hard to come to terms with. Even I'm struggling in this moment to come to terms with that, but you have to. Otherwise, you are just going to get down on yourself, you're going to get down on life, and you're just going to see no point, and then you're going to end up giving up on the domestic leagues and stop caring. CB LOL, for example, has not won a series against a major region. They didn't even make it to the last chance qualifier series. Like, they haven't made it that far yet. There's a ton of pride. Why? Because culturally it's ingrained in them. I know culturally for us it's different. We have that expectation to win. That's why we go out and we buy, younger Korean players, and hoping that they'll come over and play well here and help out our ecosystem and so much more. You have to temper expectations. And I know teams need to do a better job of helping push that as well. But the truth hurts sometimes. And the truth of the matter is that we should not expect to win a game against China or Korea. So don't let these losses affect you all that much, and go into Summer Split taking pride in that it's a fun, entertaining league to watch, and that we're still North America. We got our problems, but hopefully we'll figure our stuff out in the long term. Not figure our stuff out to be better than Korea, but just figure our stuff out to make sure that it's entertaining and people find value in the product. I don't know. While I'm walking back, actually, let me address Khan's point that people need to start hyping up these domestic matchups more on the international stage. Khan, I love you, buddy, but I can't. I mean, it doesn't help that I'm not going to be able to watch the series, so there's a little bit of a dampening effect there. But it doesn't do me much good to see, the LCS play each other again when I already see enough of that domestically. I like seeing us play the other regions. That's the whole intent of the international tournaments. So I'm not complaining about the format like others are. I'm not going to sit here and just criticize and take away from it, but I'm also not going to sit here and hype it up whenever I truly don't believe on my part that it's all that exciting. Like, knocking each other out, you're looking at the hype side of it. I'm looking at the great, we're losing a team because of our self angle. I'm looking at it in terms of gaming the tournament, which sucks. And I know, is that the best mind frame to have? Probably not, but ultimately we'll figure it out. Okay, now that is officially it, because I got to get back. I got a meeting in 5 minutes, and then I got to edit this video and get it uploaded so you all can see this on the same day. And then I'll have another video again on Monday giving a in memoriam for whoever loses. But we'll deal with that when the time comes. Adios.